All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So this has been a wild week, folks. I got some updates for you. The last video I did, I had said that we were trying to adopt a puppy. We had filled out this crazy long application, probably took 8 hours over 2 days. You got to get references. You got to get permission from your landlord. You know how hard it is to reach out to a New York City landlord and get them to write you a letter that gives you permission to get a little monster puppy and bring it into their building? We made that happen. We packaged the whole thing up. We sent it to the pet finder gods that get to decide everything. They said it would take 2 to 10 days. And we never heard anything. And meanwhile, we're looking at all these dogs on their website, like half falling in love with them. Like, yeah, that could be the one. All right, cool. Yeah, let's do it. When they reach out. And then that one would be off the website. Someone else got it. And then we'd fall in love with another one. Like, all right, okay, what about this one? All right. And then that one's gone. And it just happens over and over again. And we didn't even hear from them. And it's like, all right, well... So then on the last video, I just said, well, I'm asking the Schmida fam, and I said, anyone, I put it out there, and within 48 hours, everything was totally sorted out, completely easy and simple. We are leaving tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., driving 6.5 hours to the Lake Ontario region, picking out our puppy, then driving 20 minutes away, staying in an Airbnb that night, waking up early on Sunday morning, driving back to where the puppies are, actually getting our puppy, driving the 6.5 hours back to the city, and then the sleep deprivation era of the show begins. It's actually kind of here in a way. I've slept terribly this whole week. I was telling myself stupidly, like, you know what? I am going to sleep really good the week before the puppy, just really get some good sleep, and then I'll be ready for when the puppy's here to have sleepless nights, take it out 2 or 3 times, horrible nightmare. But then just the anxiety and anticipation of the whole thing happening, I slept horrible this week. Finally slept a little bit better last night. I think just exhaustion at a certain point, you just accept things. But we're very excited. I hope it goes well. I got to get this right. But I do have some updates for you guys. These should probably be split up into their own episodes, but like I said, this week has just been a whirlwind. So first, Danny Masterson was in court. He pleaded not guilty. Everybody knew that was going to happen, and it looks like the trial is kicking off March 24th. Also, this past week, Elizabeth Holmes was in the news. Remember the Theranos visionary for the Edison? At first they call you crazy, and then they fight you, and then you lie to everybody, and then they charge you with fraud. She was back in the news because we're coming up on her trial for fraud for the whole Edison. She invented a box, said it could do all this stuff. All it could really do was test for one rare form of chlamydia, just a giant chlamydia testing box. And so she lied to investors, she lied to everybody. She's facing 20 years in prison. The trial starts July 13th, one day after Ghislaine's. And the reason she was in the news this week is they subpoenaed the motherboard. They call it like the information systems or something for the Edison, the chlamydia testing machine. They want the motherboard because it has the success and failure rate of the whole, I guess, of all the machines for 3 years, which would be a big crux in the case to be like, hey, look, for 3 years it didn't work, and she's still selling it to Walgreens in Arizona. And so they subpoenaed the motherboard, the information system, and they're alleging now that after they subpoenaed it, it was destroyed. And so that, you got to think, I mean, I don't even know if these people can help themselves. You got to think that is going, if you are going to go to prison, destroying the evidence isn't going to help the amount of time. And I will always couple with Elizabeth Holmes, so we'll follow her, right, as the trial goes. But always, in my opinion, connected to her. It was like about the same time they seem like similar people, both lied to investors, is Billy McFarland, the Fyre Festival fraudster. He was trying to throw a big music festival down in the Bahamas to promote this app called Fyre that he was trying to make, where anyone like you or me could be like, I want to have Beyonce at my birthday party, and Drake. And so in theory, you could go on the Fyre app and book Beyonce. And to promote this idea, they thought, let's have a music festival down in the Bahamas. And it was like him and Ja Rule, remember? And it was just a total disaster. Same thing as the Edison machine. There's no way they should have kept going. They were completely out of their league. They didn't have enough beds for the music festival attendees. They didn't have enough food. They didn't have any bands. They didn't have anything. Toilets. You name it, everything that you need for a music festival, they didn't have, and all of the talented, smart people that Billy hired were telling him, we have to call this whole thing off. It's not going to work. People are going to die. And they're working local Bahama like construction workers and day laborers. They're working them to just the bone, promising, don't worry, you're going to get paid. You're going to get your money. Okay, I know you've worked for 6 weeks helping us get this movie or this music festival ready to go, and we haven't paid you, but we will pay you. There was like a Bahama restaurant that was making food for all the workers, and she ended up getting screwed, but anyway, the whole thing was a disaster. They had 2 dueling documentaries in 2017 come out, one on Hulu, one on Netflix. It was like a big event for a while. And then the music festival goes down as a total disaster. Billy gets fraud charges, just like Elizabeth Holmes, for lying to investors about how well the Fyre app, the one where you could book, in theory, Beyonce for like $100,000. And so he was lying how good the app was doing to get more money, and he got fraud. His trial is already completed. The documentaries end with text saying Billy McFarland got 6 years in prison, and he has to pay restitution of $26 million. And one of the craziest things about it is, so he's looking at fraud. This almost reminds me of how Elizabeth Holmes destroyed the evidence, and it's just like, what are you doing? You can't even help yourself. But after Billy gets arrested for fraud for the Fyre Festival, and everything's coming out, and nothing looks good. I mean, there's footage of him smoking a comically huge cigar on the beach with Ja Rule being like, yeah, we're just selling a pipe dream to the average loser. You know? And so while he is out on bail for the Fyre Festival disaster, where he frauded all these people and really probably broke the spirit of a lot of people down in the Bahamas in a way we'll never know. You never know when you ruin someone financially, or ruin their marriage, or ruin their life or their business or whatever it is. But while he was out on bail for the Fyre Festival fraud, he started another company under some like young kid named Frank called NYC VIP Access, and it was just a total scam. Maybe his other 2 companies, which was Magnesis, which is where if you don't have a personality, you could spend $250 a year and get a big metal credit card that's heavy. And so I guess like when you're at dinner and everyone's splitting the bill, you throw down your big heavy metal credit card and it bounces around and makes noise, and all the ladies are like, oh my God, and like creaming their pants is what I think he was hoping. So that was his first company, and then it was Fyre, and then while he's out on bail, he starts NYC VIP Access, and it's just a total scam. And again, it's like, what? How can you really just not even help yourself? It's just scam forward, 4-wheel scam at all times. And I think he got, like I said, 6 years in prison, and I think a big part of maybe why he got that was for that NYC VIP access, is what it sounds like to me, or that was definitely an aggravating part of the case. But anyway, so I looked up Billy. Elizabeth Holmes was in the news this week, and I looked up Billy, and he's 3 years into his 6-year prison sentence, and recently he did an interview, which I will link in the description if you want to listen to the full thing, but I'll give you the highlights. So he wasn't allowed to do an interview over the phone with a journalist. He did. The interview we're talking about landed him in solitary confinement. Wasn't his first time in solitary confinement. So his first stint, I guess in 2018, when the trial concluded, his first place he was where Ghislaine is allegedly, at the Brooklyn MDC. I did a video about it where I was walking around. The prisoners could see me and they were screaming. You could hear it. It's a terrifying place. But he was saying that place was horrible. He did 7 months there. Totally violent, every day, just awful. And then he got moved to like a white-collar fraudster. Hey, what are you in for? You know, fraud. Upstate New York. He was there for a while. He said he really liked that place because it was close to friends and family. They could come visit him. And he said he had to do a time in solitary confinement. I think it was there, I think it was there. And he got caught with having a flash drive on him. And what was on the flash drive, he said, was his memoir. He says he's written 2 books in prison already, 1 nonfiction and 1 fiction. The thing I was thinking, though, is he's a compulsive liar. At no point, and he's filmed himself for a long time, at no point from what I've seen of watching him does he have the ability to tell the truth or maybe even know what the truth is. So I was thinking, how does a compulsive liar write a nonfiction book? Like, it'd be funny if he turned in the nonfiction book and the fiction book into like his agent or whoever, and he goes, okay, get these going. We can make a little money. I got to pay $26 million in restitution. And they read him and they're like, Billy, no offense, but your fiction book is just pure drivel. I don't know why you thought you could write a novel that quickly without any experience. You don't even read, Billy. Why do you think you could do this? It takes professional fiction writers 3 years. You just hammered this out. This is terrible. And they just drop it in the trash can. But they're like, but the one that you call the nonfiction book, none of it is true, but you may have accidentally written a great novel. The characters, the plot. It's amazing, Billy. And he's just like, all right, I thought it was true. But, and so in the interview, he's saying that he had to do solitary confinement for 3 months for that flash drive, and it really forced him to reflect for the first time. And that just shows you how just reptile-like he is. It took you that long and sitting by yourself in jail to finally realize how many lives you just flushed down the tube. And he said he hadn't watched the documentaries, but if you remember the story, they're getting this, the area for this music festival. They're desperately trying to get it all together. It's not ready. They're telling Billy, you got to cancel, man. It's over, bro. You have to cancel. And he doesn't. He just, no. And guests start arriving. Planes start landing in the Bahamas. And there's not enough places to stay. Like I said, there's no all the bands had canceled. There's no food. There's nothing. And they say people were working with Billy. He was just like pacing around out on the balcony at the house he was staying in, and he's so nervous. And Billy, even with all of the just no bands, no food or anything, in this interview with the journalist, he goes, I really think the main issue of I think the whole thing actually would have worked, but he said a managerial decision that I made that probably ruined the whole thing is, he said, when all the guests got there, and this is in the documentary, instead of just letting them go to the disaster site with all the tents that had been destroyed from a rainstorm, then there's not enough of them, and instead of just showing their hand like, we blew it, there it is, sorry about it, go try to find a little cave or something to sleep in. Instead of doing that, Billy decided, let's try to buy ourselves another 8-10 hours of working on the site that they're going to see, so we're not embarrassed, so I don't get looked at as a failure or something. So they decided, Billy's managerial decision, that instead of busing everybody that showed up for the festival over to the site, they were going to bus them over to this restaurant that had a dock, and it looks good because it had already been built, you know. So they bring everybody over to this restaurant, and everybody's sitting there, and they bring all of this tequila. Billy was like, let's just get everybody drunk, and they'll be in a good mood. So they bring bottle after bottle of tequila. There's footage of them dumping it down everybody's throat. They had all these jet skis rented and everything, so they bring the jet skis over. Everybody's riding the jet skis, drinking tequila. But as time goes on, you know, people get hungry, people get tired, people want their luggage, people want to see where they're staying, maybe grab a little nap, you know, after a little tequila afternoon. Like, all right, woo, I need to take a break for a little bit. And so by that point, it was dark, and then they brought everybody, and Billy was saying by that point, everybody was just hammered and angry, and it was dark, and it turned pretty scary. And Lord of the Flies-esque, it says in one of the documentaries. But then there's classic footage of Billy. There's like the angry crowd going, where's our luggage? Where do we sleep? What's going on? Did Blink-182 really cancel? What the hell? And Billy, at one point, he gets up on like a table or something, and he's directing, and he's telling people, yeah, just if you paid, you know, 10 grand for a villa, I don't know, there's no villas, just go grab a tent. And there's this mad dash, and everybody's turning on each other, and you see Billy, who he's up, and he's trying to, you know, conduct everybody, and then like a little worm captain of a ship that bails while it's going down, he, instead of sticking it out, going down with his own ship like a man, he just wormed out. And you see him, he's standing up on the table, and he just timidly and pathetically gets down and slinks off, and just leaves everybody that he was working with, and everybody just hangs him out to dry. And the whole thing goes terribly, and he slinked away and just disappeared. A lot of his people that were working for him had trouble even getting off the island. Like one of them, a big angry mob of local construction workers that hadn't been paid in weeks showed up and were like, where is our money? And he was like, I don't know where Billy is. And he was able to duck in a car and get out of there. And Billy just disappeared. He was just off the Bahamas all of a sudden. And I always have a fantasy that, because still to this day in the interview, he's saying, I just was trying to move too fast. You know, he never says, I'm a sociopath, compulsive liar, I should not be around anybody really, you know, asking for money or directing anything. But he just goes, I was trying to just move too fast, you know, that's all it was. It's just, I just was impatient. But I always have a fantasy of a different end. He's sitting in jail right now, you know, he's putting on concerts, he's doing all this stuff that makes him look good, but part of me wishes it would have ended where he would have like slinked off the table and went to his villa, and he's like looking around the corner at all of the just pandemonium and all the hell that he's caused, and he maybe dials a cell phone like, hey, land a little private plane, I gotta get out of here. And he hangs up the phone, and he turns around, and there's just a mob of angry day laborers all holding hammers and chains and wrenches. And it's the classic Billy's like, guys, let's think about this, okay? I will get you your money. And they just come at him with a jolly grin on his face. And the last thing you see is the camera going slowly up to the Bahama moon. You just hear Billy's screaming as they rip him apart. Because in the interview, it's all, I lied to investors, you can't lie, it's way better if you're just transparent with your business partners. you know, I'm going to do my best to pay it back. I'm going to do it the right way. I had forced reflection in solitary confinement. And my girlfriend was over on the couch while I was listening to it, and she said, he's saying the right things, but there's definitely a lizard quality to it. Like, you just figured out the things to say. You have zero ability not to start a New York City VIP access type company while out on bail. And what's really interesting to me about old Billy McFarland is he's halfway through this prison sentence. He's going to get out as a young man, and he started 3 scam companies already, and now he has a $26 million restitution to try to pay off. That's a little bit of a nightmare. And so I can't wait to see what company he starts next, because they're all a disaster, they're all a fraud, and it should be interesting. But I had one more thing. I want to talk about the Capitol riots, and there's another wild something that happened in Oregon at their Capitol too. But I think I'm gonna cut it off on this one. So that's all I got. I hope you guys are doing well. Next week with the tiny baby pooping, peeing little monster, it'll probably be a little bit of a crazy week as well, but I'm hoping the week after that really get back to normal. It's been a wild beginning of the year, but I love you all. I will see you soon. Why? Starving why? Shamita. Woo!